My name is Eric, and I am 30 years old. I run a company in digital marketing and have 200 employees. To many, it sounds like a dream. I make several $1 million every year. I build it all myself, and I should be satisfied. But there is one area in my life where I constantly fail, and that is relationships. I work out regularly, I look good, and I take care of myself. I have no problem meeting women, but I have big problems finding someone who actually wants to be with me for who I am and not for my money. Almost every time I date, it ends in chaos. Last time, it was a woman who, after 4 dates, demanded that we get married. When I said it was way too early, she went crazy. She started spreading rumors that I was unfaithful and aggressive, which of course was not true. Before that, there was another girl who started stalking me. She showed up everywhere, sent messages every day, tried to pressure me into meeting her. When I said no, she continued anyway, and in the end it became uncomfortable. I've had women standing outside my house. I've had women showing up at my job. I've had women at my own office trying to flirt and manipulate to get dates. It feels like wherever I go, there's always someone who wants to take advantage of me. The last few times I tried dating with fake information. I made anonymous profiles on dating sites and hid who I was. But even that ended badly. At first, the interest is usually lukewarm, but as soon as they realize who I really am, everything becomes hysterical. Either they want to meet immediately, or they start talking about money and the future as if we are already a couple. I was close to giving up when I met Sarah. I was sitting at a cafe near the office. It's a place I usually go to have a coffee in peace because no one usually recognizes me there. When I was standing in line, the woman in front of me dropped her phone. I picked it up and handed it back. She smiled, thanked me, and we started talking a little. It wasn't anything special, just a few words about how stressful it can be in the middle of the day. She introduced herself as Sarah. I noticed right away that she had no idea who I was. She asked normal questions like you do when making small talk. Who I worked with, where I was from, and so on. It felt normal, and for me it was almost unusual. We sat down at the same table, mostly because it was full everywhere else. The conversation continued. She told me she worked with graphic design at a smaller company. She talked more about herself than asking a lot of questions about me. That was nice. She didn't seem like someone who was after something, just like a regular person. After a while, she asked if I wanted to have coffee again sometime. It wasn't me who took the initiative, it was her. I said yes, mostly because I was curious. We met again the following week. This time we went for a walk after work. She asked a few questions about my company, but not in the way I was used to. She seemed more interested in why I started it than in the money behind it. I also downplayed the size of my company quite a lot. After the third time we met, I started thinking that maybe this could be something. I didn't feel that pressure I had gotten from others before. No talk about the future right away, no weird demands, no drama. Just normal meetings, normal conversations. I thought that maybe I'd finally met someone who saw me for who I am. We kept seeing each other. There were dinners, walks, and a few times movies. I deliberately held back from taking her home with me. I didn't want her to see how I lived, not yet. I knew my home would reveal too much about my life, and I wanted to be sure she was really interested in me and not everything around me. That's why I decided we would only meet at her place. She lived in a fairly simple apartment, but it was cozy. It felt more relaxed there, like I could be anyone. After a few weeks it happened. We were at her place one evening drinking wine, and she was the one who took the initiative. She leaned toward me, kissed me, and pulled me into the bedroom. I was caught off guard, but I went along. What happened that night was incredible. She was confident, passionate, and it felt genuine in a way I hadn't experienced in a long time. It wasn't a game or something fake. It was just two people really meeting. Afterwards, we lay there for a long time talking. I noticed that I relaxed in a way I almost never do with anyone. I started thinking that maybe this was exactly what I had been looking for all along. After that night at her place, everything between us changed. We started seeing each other more often, several times a week. I still held back. I didn't invite her to my place. I wanted to keep that side of my life out as long as possible. But at her place, I almost became a part of the everyday life. I got to know her way of living, her little routines, and it actually felt good. We cooked together, watch series, sometimes just lay on the couch talking. It was simple, and it was exactly what I had missed. No pressure, nothing strange. She seemed completely fine with me, keeping a low profile about my life outside. She asked questions, but not in a pushy way, more curious than demanding. After a few weeks, I started to feel that I could open up a bit more. I told her a little about my company, but I didn't bring up any numbers or details. I just said that it was going well and that it took a lot of my time. She seemed to understand that, and she gave me the feeling that it didn't really matter. When we talked about the future, it was looser, as if she just wanted to know who I was as a person. She asked about childhood, about family, about what I dreamed of when I was younger. It didn't feel like an interview, more like she really wanted to know. We also continued to have it good physically. Every time felt natural. I started to feel that I could let down my guard. I didn't see any of the warning signs I was used to from others. That made me more relaxed, and I started to think that this maybe actually could be something long-term. For the first time in a long while, I felt hope. I started taking her out to dinners. We did things that I loved to do, so she could see more deeply who I was. I took her to art exhibitions, theater, movies. We took weekends in New York, Los Angeles, and we went away a few weeks to Europe and visited Paris, Stockholm, and Garda, among others. Everything was wonderful. I leased her a new car because hers was very old. She got a credit card, and I made sure her rent was paid. Everything flowed just as it should. But then after a few months, small things started to change. At first, I didn't put much weight on it, but in hindsight, there were clear signals. It started with her wanting to know more exactly where I was. If I said I was working late, there were often follow-up questions, but with whom? Or, why can't you just do it tomorrow? At first, I thought it was just concern, but the tone gradually became more pressing. When I didn't reply right away to a text, several more could come after. Hello, what are you doing? Why aren't you answering? Sometimes she called and got irritated when I said I was in a meeting. She also started commenting on women I worked with. If I mentioned a colleague in a story, she could get stuck on that detail and ask how close we really were. I explained that it was completely professional, but she was rarely satisfied with that answer. After a while, she started posting pictures of us on her social media. That in itself wasn't strange, but she wrote captions that suggested we were much more serious than we had talked about. Posts like "best time of my life" and "so thankful I found him." People started commenting and congratulating, and I felt like I lost control of how our relationship was presented outwardly. One evening, she showed up at my job without telling me beforehand. She waited outside the office and said she wanted to surprise me. I smiled and played along, but deep inside I was uncomfortable. I had built a wall between my professional life and my private life, and now she was there mixing them. Another time she got upset because I wanted to go away for a weekend alone to train and disconnect from work. She said she didn't understand why I didn't want to take her. When I explained that I just needed time for myself, she went silent, and the next day she was cold as punishment. It wasn't an open fight, but I felt something start to rub. Small things that at first looked like concern started to feel more like control. I started thinking about how I did things so as not to upset her. One evening, I talked with one of my friends after the gym. I mentioned this, and he said I should realize how many warning lights were flashing right now. After a while, it got worse. She went from small comments and questions to making direct demands. One evening, she said outright that we should move in together. We hadn't even talked about it before. When I said it was too early, she replied that if you don't want that, then you're not serious with me. It wasn't a discussion, it was an ultimatum. Shortly after that, she started talking about shared money. She suggested that we could have a joint account to make everyday life easier. I said no, and she got angry. She said that if I really trusted her, then it wouldn't be a problem. I tried to explain that I had always managed my things myself and wanted to continue that way, but it didn't go over well. She also started showing up where she shouldn't be. One time she came to a client meeting, sat in the lobby, and waited. Afterwards, she said she just wanted to be there as support. To me, it felt like an invasion. On social media, the pressure increased even more. She started writing things suggesting we were planning marriage. People in her circle started treating me as if I was already her fiancé. I confronted her about it, but she just said she was proud of me and that I should be happy. Eventually, it crossed a line. She called one of my employees directly without telling me and asked questions about me and my schedule. When I found out, I explained clearly that it was completely unacceptable. She reacted by crying, saying I didn't understand her and that I was keeping her at a distance on purpose. When crying didn't work, she became aggressive. She started coming at me, and I feared she would become violent. As a man, it's impossible to defend yourself against a violent woman and not get blamed for it. So the best defense was to leave the situation. That was when I decided to end the relationship. A couple of days later, after ignoring her texts and phone calls, she started trying to get into the office. But I had told the receptionist to deny her entry. I called her and said that it had now gone so far that I could no longer have a relationship with her. I asked her to stop trying to contact me. She screamed at me that she now didn't know what to do since I had much greater financial means than she did, and that it was unfair to show her a lifestyle she could no longer be part of. I was so stunned that I didn't really know what to say. And before I had time to say anything, she said that I should pay her a lump sum so she could continue living as she was. It was a long road to get rid of her. I realized I had to start recording this so I wouldn't risk running into trouble afterwards. It took over a month to get her to understand that it was over. I was close to having to talk to the police. Looking back, I probably should have. Afterwards, I was so tired of everything that I stopped trying. It took several months. Then I realized that there's a way to take money out of the equation. To only date very wealthy women. They wouldn't care about money. That became my salvation. I haven't found the right woman yet, but I've dated several women without any problems at all. This is what I will continue with. I have asked this question to all the friends I have. Many of them are very wealthy. They all say the same thing. Dating ordinary women doesn't work.
If you liked this story, please subscribe and give us a thumbs up. It helps a lot, and you won't miss out on any future stories. Take care and live your best life.